Hello everyone, it's Matt here, and this is just a quick look at a comparison between the 7 wide and 8 wide Brickliner cars. And this is just a comparison of the open second effectively, because I don't actually have any of the cars on the 8 wide configuration yet. So the first thing you'll notice, aside from the fact that the trains are, or the coach is 8 wide instead of 7 wide, is the fact that I've also extended it by 2 studs. And the reason I've extended it by 2 studs is actually to standardise the underframe. So the underframe is actually just 2 standard end sections and then a section in the middle, which is just duplicated 3 times. So obviously it's a lot easier to build, there's a lot more standardised, and there's a lot fewer specialist parts in there. So it's more of a universal size, and the 2 extra studs actually make a fair amount of difference, and it's enabled me to do a few of the pieces and tweaks. The biggest change compared to the older version is actually the ends of the car. This is because there's now an extra 2 studs either end of roof space to cover, because I've now drawn back the roof section from being 6 wide just to 4, and there's actually also a little step up at the end of the car as a bit of a streamlining. There's a little ramp in the middle there to enable it to go smoother. The roof sections as well, they've been changed around, and they actually have the same amount of parts in the new version as I do in the old one. So if I go to the content selection tool, that is 30 pieces. If I zoom out, there's a roof section all the way over there, and that is also 30 pieces. So there's actually not that much difference in terms of the piece count between these 2 coaches. The main difference is actually just the fact that I've using a few large parts and rearranging the parts that I've already got, and it's essentially, there's a few tweaks that way. The toilet section is actually now has a 3 wide interior space, so there's a bit more movement for room for minifigs to move around in there. I haven't added any detail. I haven't added like the toilet or the wash basin. I want to try and get a mirrored sticker in there somewhere or something like that, so it looks like there's a mirror, but that still needs to be worked on. In terms of passenger count, I've not done a rough count, but there are more seats in here. It's a lot more of a standardised and mirrored layout as well, so it just flows a little bit smoother. And there's 4 tables in this. There would have been 4 tables in the original, but there's a lot more seats, and they're a lot better laid out as well. And in terms of parts count, surprisingly enough, the old one comes in at 320, the new one comes in at 332. So for just 12 extra pieces, I've gained 2 studs in car length. There's more, obviously there's not as many seats in the old one as there is in the new one, so in actual fact I've actually probably saved pieces. There is a few caveats to this though. Like the toilet section has quite a few large panels, so if I go back to this one, there's quite a few of these 2x3 panel elements, wall elements, to try and lighten the car in those sections and actually block off some of the room. And I can do the same to other sections on the car as well, so I could actually, providing those pieces are fairly affordable, I could even go down the route of bulk buying some of those and fitting them in, and that will mean that there's less plastic as in comparison between the elements, so I can save on part counts and weight as well, so make them a little lighter as well, because obviously the issue is that I'm trying to make these cars as realistic as possible, but also functional and pullable as a train, so they need to be light enough to be able to do that. Another thing is I was going to use 2x3 tiles for the end roof sections here, but I've only got 1x3, so again that's another part saving I can do in real life that I'm limited to by LDD. So in terms of parts count and the special parts used, surprisingly there's not that much in these cars as of yet. The biggest one is actually going to be the underframe, because it's got these rather large 6x10 panel pieces, and above the bogie covers it's actually got these rather specialist 8x8 plates, and they're not actually that common, so it's a little bit of a thing to sort of go, how many can I use without it being cost prohibitive to move to this section. So there's only 2 of those in the end sections, and then the rest are just using there's literally just 2 4x10 plates, one either side. centre of the section, so you've noticed that the bottom section, it's actually got a one stud wide plate going around the entire outer section of the car, and that is actually to make it a lot simpler to build, because the main structure of the frame, as in the bit I want to make strong, is actually the centre, because that's actually where all the weight's going to be pressed, where the bogies are going to be supported on. So I want that centre section to be nice and strong. Now obviously the issue is that can't be nice and strong without a good body shell on top, so obviously I've had to make a few changes to that. So obviously everything I've done to the car, I've tried to simplify it, make it lighter, and make it more parts efficient by using large parts to replace a lot of smaller ones. So for example at this end here, if I zoom in, there's those 2x3s there, another 2x3 there, 1x6 there, a 4x6 there, and then you got that specialist piece, and then you got the roof. Whereas on this one, there's a 1x10 there, a 2x8 there, a 2x8 there, which is the one with the Technic holes in, a 2x8 there, there's a 1x10 there, and there's a 1x6 there, and that has filled in the entirety of that section. And not only is it filled in that section, it's also covering a bigger area as well. So for the same amount of parts, it's actually covering a bigger area because they're more standardised and a lot bigger. If you move further down the car, you can see because of the 7 wide, it's not a standardised system, so I've had to use like a 4x10 plate there, and 2x3 plates there, and a 1x6 there, and a 2x6 there. Whereas this one, it's just literally a 1x10, a 6x10, and a 1x10. You know, standardised, easier to use, simpler to build. And that's essentially what I've done to the whole car as well. So going to 8 wide is a lot simpler than building in 7 wide. I mean, it doesn't take us years to work that out because of the way the system works for Lego. Because obviously the system, and Lego said this themselves, system is more about 8 wide and sort of like even numbers than it is odd numbers. So 7 wide is a nice scale, don't get me wrong, but it's also a very problematic scale if you're trying to build in it. This sort of thing. So yeah, so it's looking a lot better. There's a lot less in terms of parts count because I'm able to use large pieces and standardise on some of the other elements. So yeah, you know, 8 wide looks to be definitely the go-to thing for the Brickliner. So that's just this quick update and comparison over with, and I'm Matt, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video.